Hey guys, Hemoglobin here with a few observer block clocks. The one that I tend to use is the 3 observer block clock due to its length of interval for on periods versus off periods. However, you can simplify it and use a 2 observer block clock or the simple observer clock. This just has 2 inward-facing observer blocks, creating a continual, very fast redstone signal pulse. This pulse is so fast that redstone blocks do not have time to power off, but the pulse is still being maintained, as you can see with this redstone dust. If you wish to go for longer intervals that allow for redstone lamps to depower, I would recommend using the 3 observer block clock method or the observer block clock with redstone block. You can also regulate when your observer block clock is on using a pressure plate, some redstone dust, and a piston. When you stand on this pressure plate, it will power this block, which then will power that dust underneath, and then you can power a piston to push the observer block into the other observer block, which will create a signal that can go through certain types of blocks, such as a redstone lamp. From here, you can use a couple different methods, one of which would be 2 inward-facing droppers with stackable items. As this dropper fills up, a comparator will turn on, sending a signal through this line here. So as long as you have a repeater here, this signal will pulse. If you remove the repeater, it will not pulse. Instead of using this slightly more complex method, you could opt for a dropper-hopper system. In the dropper-hopper system, they face into each other, and you can place stackable items into the dropper, and when the signal comes through, it will push these items into this hopper. When the signal is no longer there, the hopper will automatically push the items back into this dropper. Depending on how many items are in this hopper, this comparator will either be off, have a signal strength of 1, or a signal strength of 2. So let us demonstrate this theory. So stepped on the pressure plate, which turned on the redstone, which powered the piston, which pushed up the observer block, which turned on the observer block clock portion of this. That pulse is being sent through the redstone lamp. It is a pulse, even though you may not be able to see it, but I can make it a bit more obvious with the redstone dust. So we will stand on here for a moment to try to ensure that all of the items are in their respective secondary containers. Okay, so I removed the signal, which causes the observer block to descend, which then allows for this hopper to push items back into the dropper. As you saw, once it got below a certain number of items, this redstone signal decreased from a signal length of 2 to 1, and then when it goes completely empty, it is a signal length of 0. as there is no repeater here, this signal is constantly on. As it is constantly on, all the items are still in here. If you apply a repeater, this will now pulse. With this pulsing, the items will be pushed out into this dropper. So depending on what type of output you're looking for while you're on your pressure plate, you can either go for a delayed steady on pulse or a continually ticking pulse. So that, in a nutshell, are a few types of observer block clocks, from the very simple that uses only 2 observer blocks to the more complex, which integrates either 2 droppers and a comparator and a couple of repeaters, or 1 dropper, 1 hopper, and a comparator. Until next time, I hope you have a great day, and I hope this video has been somewhat educational. Thank you, and goodbye.